Hello, good morning. Hope you guys had a good weekend. I had a weekend where I felt like I was busy the whole weekend, but I didn't get anything done. And I don't feel rested at all. Annoying. I'm gonna wait for a few more viewers. Hola. Okay, we have 18 viewers, so I think I'm gonna start. First of all, I have built up quite a backlog of assignments that I have to grade for this class, and I'm working my way through the backlog. So I put up some grades last night for, I think, files 1, pretty much all of the HL assignments, and about half of the SL assignments. So take a peek. I also gave you guys a curve for the midterm. It was just 10%. Okay. So yeah. So today, what are we going to learn about? Well, we are going to learn about two things: images, how to put an image into a GUI, and then the second thing is mouse, using the mouse within your program. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share my desktop. Okay, so first of all, this is coming from chapter 18. I think it's actually chapter 18 in your, I think it might actually be chapter 17 in your textbook, but I think this is from a newer edition. So there, at any rate, there's a chapter that you can download. It's called Mouse, Keyboards, Sounds, and Images. All right, so I tried some of the sound programs, and I honestly think the sound stuff might be too antiquated to even use on a modern computer, but the mouse and the image stuff that I'm going to teach you today works on my computer, so I assume it'll work on yours. So let's just go ahead and dive right into my program that I wrote. I'm going to comment some stuff out, and I'm going to zoom in. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, so if you want to use images, you need to import the java.awt.image class. Okay, so this is needed for images. You're also going to need to probably do the graphics class. This is needed for images. You're going to need to do the image input output. Need for images. You're going to need to use files. Need for images. And you're going to need IO exception, because anytime you're doing files, you're going to be opening up files, and so that could have an input-output exception. So you need to include that as well. So there's a lot of import statements to do these programs. Okay, so I have a public class called GUI3. That's the assignment that you guys are going to be doing today. It extends JPanel. So if you remember, a JPanel is a thing that goes inside a JFrame. Okay, so this is going to be a thing that goes inside a JFrame. So GUI3 will fit into a JFrame. Okay. My GUI3 class has a private image as a field. It's called myImage. As an image object as a field. And so here's the constructor. And so one of the things, so I'm going to come back to this part of the code later. So one of the things about, because I'm going to be using files, okay, I need to have any part of the program that uses a file, I need to throw an input-output exception, because you could try to open up a file and it's not really there. Okay, so constructor throws an IO exception because it opens a file. Okay, and that might not work. So anytime you could potentially try to open up a file that is not there, you need to throw an IO exception. So we have GUI3, and then the constructor throws, it calls the super. So remember, GUI3 extends JPanel. So super is just going to call the JPanel constructor. Okay. And then a lot of stuff is happening in line 16 here. So basically what I'm doing is, if you want to read an image, maybe I'll just do some comments down here. To read an image, first create a file for the image. Okay, so you can see that the image that this program is going to use is called bug.jpg. So I have a new file for bug.jpg. That's the only place that's going to be used, so I didn't create my own variable for that file. I just put it in there. And then the image IO class has a static method. So remember, a static method is a method of the class, and so you call a static method by saying image, name of the class dot name of the static method. So the image IO class has a static method called read, which which returns the file as an image. Okay, so so you can see that I'm reading this file as an image, and I'm setting it equal to my image. So the image object, the field, is being set to the image bug.jpg. Okay, so that's what I'm doing in my constructor. Now the JPanel class has a paint method. So I am overriding the paint method of JPanel. Okay, overriding not the paint method, the paint method of JPanel. So you can see in line 31, I'm calling. So this is a lot like the graphics lesson. So the paint method has a graphics, accepts a graphics G. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to call the paint method of JPanel. So that, remember, the when you do super dot, it calls the method of the super class. So we're just doing the same thing that the old paint method did, but then we are also drawing my image. Okay, so you can see that I do g.drawImage, and then it takes 4 parameters. The last parameter is just going to be null. It's not used. The first parameter is the name of the image. Okay, so the image is called my image. And then the other 2 parameters are the x and y coordinates of where the upper left-hand corner of that image is going to go. Okay? And that's it. Okay? So there's got to be, now I didn't look into it terribly closely, but I'm sure there's a way where you can rescale the image. I didn't look that much into the documentation for the image class, but there's got to be a way where you can resize this image or compress it in certain dimensions, etc. But we're not going to worry about this just for this brief introduction. Okay, if you really need to do images in your IA, for example, you might want to look more into that. But we're just kind of getting an introduction. Okay, so then in the going to the main method, I have a JFrame. So this is creating a JFrame, which is basically a window, right? And then set the dimensions and initial location of the window. So this is basically the same code we've been using repeatedly. The program exits when the window is closed. And so now in that JFrame, I'm going to put a JPanel. Put a JPanel in the JFrame. But remember, with these containers, you can have nested structures. Okay, so I'm going to give that JPanel, I'm going to give it a grid layout. So give JPanel or it's called canvas. Give canvas a grid layout with it looks like it's going to have 1 row and 2 columns. Okay, and then So then I set the layout of the canvas to that. And so remember, when you add in the grid layout, it adds basically like you would read a book. It goes from left to right, top to bottom. So we're just going to go from left to right. So I created 2 new canvases that are GUI 3s. Okay, so notice that a GUI 3 extends JPanel. So I can say JPanel equals a GUI. You get what I'm saying? That's because inheritance is a GUI 3 is a JPanel. Okay, so I create 2 GUI 3 objects. Okay, and then I add them into the grid layout. And then right here, what I'm doing is so basically this block of code here is setting up the JPanel that's going to be inside my window, and then I have to add the JPanel to the window. So frame.getContentPane.add canvas, and then I make it visible. Okay, so let's compile this and let's run it. All right. What's going on here? Okay. Just gonna close that. Okay. What's going on here? There we go. All right. So here's my window. Okay. It's called GUI 3. And you can see it has a grid layout with 2 columns and 1 row. And I, in my programming folder, I have the image bug.jpg. Okay, so just like with files, you just put the file in the same folder as your program. Okay, and so the image bug.jpg is a picture of Bug when he was a puppy. So this is what Bug looked like when he was a puppy. He was super duper cute. Yeah, and so you can see I don't really have any control of the size of the image. So there's got to be a way to do that. I'm not sure what it is, but we're not going to worry about that right now because it's just a brief introduction. Okay, so I took 2 copies of that and I put them into the grid layout. If I close the window, the program's going to exit. All right, so that's the portion of this lesson for images. Now let's go to the portion of this lesson for mouse events. Okay. So if I look up the mouse listener class so basically if you want your program to do something with the mouse, you need to add a mouse listener. So you can see I called this .add a mouse listener. Okay, so I add a mouse listener. to the GUI3 class. And so I did that in the constructor. Okay. And so let's look at the mouse listener. It's an interface. So an interface is a contract that says if you have a mouse listener, it has to have certain methods. Okay, so what are the methods that that the mouse listener is going to, has to implement? And so there are 5 methods that you have to have if you add a mouse listener. They have to be defined. One of them is mouse clicked, so we can see that it is invoked when the mouse button has been clicked on a component. On a component. Okay. Mouse entered, invoked when a mouse enters a component. Mouse exited, invoked when a mouse exits the component. Mouse pressed, mouse released, etc. Okay, so you can, so that's how this works. So you have to have all of those. Okay. So I am adding, so there's a class called mouse adapter. Okay. Did I pull up the mouse adapter class? So the mouse adapter class it implements the mouse listener interface, but it has all of them doing nothing. Okay? It has all of them doing nothing. So then what we do is we then override the empty mouse clicked method. Okay. So you can see that I actually define a class inside the add mouse listener method call. Okay. So when you do this, it is called a private inline class. Okay. Private inline class. So basically, what a private inline class is it's a class you're just going to use once. Okay. So I have a mouse adapter class that I'm overriding one of the methods in that class. Okay. So it's the mouse clicked method. And you can see that when the mouse is clicked, it's going to set my image to null so that there's no more image of bug. Okay. And then it's going to, this is going to remove the image of bug. But if I remove the image, my window is not going to update. So how do you make your window update its state? You have to call the repaint method. Updates the window. Okay? So let's see how this works. Run it. Okay, so here's my 2 images. Now, what if I click in the right panel here? This is the right GUI3 object. If I click here, the image of bug is going to be set to null, and then it's going to be repainted. So bug disappears. Okay, I just clicked there and bug disappears. Why isn't the other one disappearing? Well, that's because the mouse clicked method is invoked when the mouse button has been clicked on a component. Okay, so that means that only when I clicked on that GUI3 object did it get called. So it didn't get called for the other image of bug, but if I click over here, then the other image of bug also disappears. So if you add a mouse listener, it's only going to listen to that particular component, okay? All right. So let me pull up yes again. So, there's a question. I haven't been looking at YouTube because I've just been sharing my screen. But what if your computer doesn't have a mouse? Let's talk about that in the Zoom room. All right. That's pretty funny. Okay, class. So I think that's my lesson for today. This has just been a brief introduction to using images and to mouse events. Next time, we are going to learn about keyboard events. Okay. And then next week, which is the week before Thanksgiving vacation, I'm going to introduce the IA and hopefully get you guys started on the IA.